Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie, and I will be your moderator this evening. Thank you for the hall meeting with Congressman Mark Harris. We look forward to getting to as many questions as we can this evening. If you have a question, please press *3 on your phone's keypad, and a member of our team will help you get in line to ask Congressman Harris directly. Again, press *3 if you want to ask a question. If you're interested in signing up for his weekly newsletter for regular updates, please press *6. In order to reach as many constituents as possible, we are also streaming this town hall on our website. If you're listening on the website, we're sorry we are not able to take your question live, but you can submit a question to the Congressman in writing and he'll answer it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Congressman Harris for some opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Jamie. Good evening, and I want to thank everyone for joining this telephone call and this virtual town hall meeting. As your representative here in Washington, I want you to know that I'm here to listen and ensure that your voice guides my work that we're doing right here in the United States House of Representatives. As people are still joining the call and live stream, I would love to briefly share how I've been fighting for you so far in this Congress. And many of you I know have been watching the news and seeing things that are happening day by day. And it does seem that in Washington, it literally is an hour by hour change here. But since January, we, the House Republicans, along with President Trump, have really been focused on trying to get our economy back on track, securing our borders, deporting criminal illegal immigrants, eliminating waste and fraud in federal agencies, prioritizing America's interests globally, defending life, and really just restoring common sense policies. That's one of the things I've loved about this administration and about serving in Congress right now is you've got a president that is interested in returning to common sense. And a key part of this mission, as you know by now, has been the One Big Beautiful Bill that is in the Senate and currently working its way through there. The goal of the One Big Beautiful Bill is to advance the America First agenda by funding construction of the border wall, by ensuring deportations can continue, and strengthening border security. It's also set up to deliver historic tax cuts for middle and working class Americans, really putting more money back in your pockets, or quite frankly, keeping the government from taking more of your money if we don't keep these tax brackets that we currently have in place. It defunds Planned Parenthood and transgender surgeries, and it reins in waste, fraud, and abuse in our welfare programs. So in addition to legislating, I also recognize as your congressman, I'm here to advocate for you when it comes to navigating the waters of all the various federal agencies. You see, for too long, the bureaucracy in Washington has been out of touch with the people it's supposed to actually be serving. So if you've ever been on hold with the IRS, or you've waited to get into the VA for health care, or you've been unable to secure your Social Security benefits, or worse, been passed around to various bureaucrats at another federal agency without getting help, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's what we want to help you in whatever way we can. And I'm very, very blessed to have assembled an incredible team of people, not only here in Washington that work in our office here, but in the district, waiting and dealing in ways that they can help our constituents week in and week out. In fact, my team in the district office can help you cut through that red tape and make sure that you get answers from those government agencies. And so if someone's on this call tonight, or you even know someone, you're on this call, maybe someone you know has had problems, but they're not on this call, don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know how we can help you, and maybe as simply as giving you information about the best place to contact and who to talk with. The past 6 months, I think everyone would agree, has really been pivotal for our nation's future. And tonight, in doing this teletown hall, we had some 8,000 folks that joined us when we did our one last quarter. And so I was excited to do this one again tonight. And I'm eager to hear your questions about how I can serve you better. So before we get to your questions, though, I do want to take just a moment to say a couple words about what's happening in the Middle East. I've made it clear very clear throughout my campaign and very clear throughout my time serving in the 119th Congress that our ally, Israel, will always find a friend in Mark Harris. I stand with our ally, Israel, and with President Trump in saying unequivocally that Iran, who is a state sponsor of terrorism, cannot have a nuclear weapon. As you know, last Saturday evening, President Trump acted decisively to remove this threat to Israel, this threat to the United States, and quite frankly, this threat to the world, after Iran refused to back down and became only, and it reached a point that only the U.S. had the ability to take care of what needed to happen. We had those bunker busting bombs, and the B-2 bomber that delivers them is part of our United States military. And as you know, they did the work in incredible fashion last Saturday evening. One of the few times, probably the only time, quite frankly, in my lifetime that I've ever heard of a military exercise where they were able to go in without a shot being fired at them. They were able to carry out their mission, and they were able to exit the airspace without a single shot being fired at them. It was one of the most impressive, well-planned, well-executed military exercises, I think, that the world has ever seen. And by the way, the world was watching, and I believe President Trump and our United States military sent a message around the world that needed to be heard on Saturday night. So our prayers are with Israel and with the United States military, who are still in harm's way in the region. The events of last night and again today, there is a ceasefire, though a bit shaky, that is in place. And this is a time that we do need to continue to pray for what's happening there and pray for our president and his leadership and an incredible impact he's making. So with that, let's get right on to your questions, Jamie. We'll take a moment and hear from the folks on the call.
Thank you, Congressman Harris. Just as a quick reminder, if you have a question, please press *3 on your phone's keypad, and a member of our team will get you in line to ask Congressman Harris directly. Again, that's *3. Our first question is coming from an online listener, Sharon. She asked, will the big, beautiful bill touch Social Security? Congressman Harris?
Well, that's a great question, Sharon, and I want to just make something very clear tonight, because I know that the media has a way of bringing about some confusion. But despite what some in the media may claim, House Republicans are not considering any proposals whatsoever that would cut Social Security benefits for seniors. Likewise, President Trump's restructuring of the Social Security Administration itself will in no way reduce benefits for current or future recipients. Listen, when you really look at the One Big Beautiful Bill, Republicans have specifically remembered our seniors. This bill that passed the House created a new tax benefit for Americans 65 and older. Starting in tax year 2025, which we're in right now, seniors would receive a doubled extra standard tax deduction per eligible filer. This $4,000 tax deduction, up from the current $2,000, would be available to seniors whose modified adjusted gross income does not exceed $75,000 for a single filer or $150,000 for married couples filing jointly. So I want to be clear tonight that we're taking care of seniors. In no way is Social Security being cut. So while Congress is unable to specifically eliminate the taxes on Social Security through the One Big Beautiful Bill due to the laws about reconciliation legislation, this is an enhanced tax deduction that's going to go a long way. So let me just reiterate, if you spent your life paying into Social Security and are retired or nearing retirement, then I believe you should receive the benefits you're counting on. And we do know that the program faces some real and urgent challenges that in the future we're going to have to look at things and how they would be restructured. But in no way, shape, or form are Social Security benefits of our seniors and those nearing retirement going to be affected in any way? So I want to just clear that up tonight.
We will now be going to Sean from Indian Trail. Sean, you're on with Congressman Harris.
Thank you. So I had a quick question about the DOGE initiatives, and we heard a lot about the DOGE savings and everything that was being identified from the work that Elon Musk was doing. With his departure, we seem to have lost any updates from DOGE. Can you please give us some update on what is happening with that initiative, and will we continue to receive updates around it?
Well, Sean, that's a great question. In fact, I've been a strong voice and strong supporter of DOGE's efforts to control our government spending. With Elon Musk gone from the administration at the current time, let me be clear, there are still DOGE groups in every agency that are still working to improve the efficiency by rooting out wasteful spending and to modernize the IT systems within the federal government. So we don't have, and be clear about this, DOGE never has had, nor does it have, the unilateral authority to cut spending or eliminate government agencies, both of which require executive action by the Trump administration or laws passed by Congress. We are continuing to operate on those very things. In fact, just in the last 2 weeks, we had before us the first of the bills, we call them rescission package, which it was $9.4 billion in your taxpayer dollars that were really propping up the USAID pet projects. They were also propping up NPR and PBS, which are very biased outlets. And the $9.4 billion that was in that rescission package, Congress did pass, and that was really the first of those that has been the result of DOGE's work. So I have indicated, and from what I can see in leadership, we are hoping that that was just the first of many rescission packages that will be sent up from the White House to Congress, because, again, those are important because they can be passed with a simple majority in the House and a simple majority in the Senate. It doesn't take 60 votes in the Senate to pass that rescission package. So that's something that's going to continue to happen. I'm actually co-sponsor of a bill to ensure that the transparency of DOGE is going to long outlive its temporary status as an agency. So DOGE is not going to go away anytime soon. They have a website. I'm not real certain of that website, but at one time I know there was a page you could go to, and it's my understanding that page is still available that says things they're finding, and that number just keeps going up in the billions and billions and billions of dollars. But the 9.4 is the first one that we passed last week out of the House. The Senate, I'm sure they'll get on as quickly as they get this reconciliation package out, hopefully by the end of this week. But that is something that has to happen within 45 days from the time it is sent up to Capitol Hill. But thank you for your question, Sean. And DOGE is, that's going to continue to be some of our work.
Thank you. Just a quick reminder, if you have a question, please press *3. Again, press *3, and a member of our team will be able to screen your call. Next, we're going to go to James from Concord. James, you're on to ask your question to Congressman Harris.
Yes, sir. Mr. Harris, I'm a big Trump supporter. I'm just wondering, what is Congress doing about stopping these rogue judges from implementing President Trump's agenda?
Well, that's a great question, James. And I can tell you this, the president has really, it's been frustrating in many ways, and you see it happen as it unfolds. When a decision is made, an executive order is written, and then some activist judge, normally a federal district court judge from anywhere in the country, just makes a declaration, it seems, and it puts an injunction in place, and it's gone across the country. Activist judges should not be able to single-handedly hold the America First agenda hostage. And I think we agree on that, James, based on on your question. But I do think it's important for you to know what we're doing about it. Congress has already, the House of Representatives has passed a bill that out of our Judiciary Committee called the No Rogue Rulings Act. And I was a co-sponsor of that bill that says that we should address the fact that the Trump administration has faced more of the injunctions than the previous 3 presidents all combined. And it really has been just a tragedy and a travesty in every way to see the way it's operated. We're going to look to the Senate to get this bill passed. I know the president would love to sign it. To be honest, it's something that the Supreme Court could step in and weigh in on at any point if they choose to. And I would certainly hope that perhaps Chief Justice Roberts and the members of the Supreme Court would be willing to say that this is not going to be tolerated anymore. When a federal judge gives a ruling, it ought to be just for that case that he's ruling on in front of him, and he should not be able to insert a national injunction that changes the landscape. So it has been frustrating for many of us that want to see the America First agenda continue, but we're going to continue to work on it. And thank you again for that question, and continue to just keep us on our toes with that for sure.
Okay, now we would like to hear from others on the call with a quick survey question. Our question for you is, do you agree with President Trump's decision to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities? Again, do you agree with President Trump's decision to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, and press 3 for unsure. While you're answering our survey, we're going to go to Steve Hoagland, who has a question online. He asked, do you support President Trump's use of military in Los Angeles? If so, why?
Well, Steve, thank you for that question. And yes, I do support President Trump's decision to bring in the National Guard in the LA riots. As you know, earlier this month, left-wing rioters took to the streets, really, and it was necessary. They were going to protest against ICE's deportation efforts. And in order to protect our ICE agents, and it was getting out of hand, President Trump made the decision to bring in the National Guard. Now, what was fascinating to me as I watched all of that unfold is you had Democratic governor and a Democratic mayor and other legislators out there saying that they had it all under control, that they didn't need the National Guard, that it was perfectly fine, that these were just peaceful protests. And the whole time that they're telling me that, while I'm looking at a split screen, they're on the left side of the screen telling me that. On the right side of the screen, I'm watching police cars being set on fire. I'm watching people chunk scooters and other bicycles and other bikes over bridges and crashing them onto California Highway Patrol vehicles. And I'm seeing fires set and all firecrackers thrown at ICE agents and others. So it was very clear that they didn't have things under control. And President Trump, by bringing in the National Guard, was doing what is his responsibility, and that is to protect the homeland and to protect the American citizens and to preserve law and order. And so I did support that. And I think that the courts have, again, come back. And while, again, you had a judge perhaps that said, no, we don't support that, that has continued to work its way through the courts. And the last judge's ruling said that the president was well within his rights to do that. So it's one of those things that, you know, again, you were watching rioters waving Mexican flags to protest being deported back, I guess, to Mexico. And it's just chaos. And President Trump was not willing to see that chaos. He wasn't willing to watch federal buildings be set on fire. Many of us remember back at the riots that we watched that broke out around the country after the George Floyd incident. And we saw where a police station in Minneapolis literally just burned while everybody just stepped back and watched it burn. So it was very clear when you listen to the police chief of the Los Angeles Police Department actually use the term that they were overwhelmed by what was happening with the rioters. They were very careful to follow the law. When the National Guard came in, their primary responsibility was to guard the ICE agents and to guard the federal buildings, to guard the property. They allowed the LA police took care of the arrest, of dealing with the protesters. And so, I think it's an example of something that has been very well executed by this administration, very well executed by law enforcement. And I'll just say this. I happened to be in a briefing this morning with the interim director of ICE, and there were about 7 congressmen sitting around a table. And as I listened, I got a question back when I was in the district. Well, why are they wearing masks? Well, I'll tell you why they're wearing masks. The ICE agents are wearing masks because they are being doxxed. They are being threatened. Their homes, their families are being threatened. And people are putting all their information out on social media. And this is just not right. And so, I'm very grateful for having a strong leader like President Trump that has stepped up, and he's going to preserve law and order. And I, for one, am grateful and do support it. But thank you for your question, Steve, and be glad to follow up.
Okay, and a reminder, if you have a question, please press *3 on your phone's keypad. Now we're going to go to our next question from Jay, who's from Matthews. Jay, you're on with Congressman Harris.
Thank you for taking my call. My question is, given the situation with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, we're in a fiscally unsustainable position. Are you willing to be a 1 or a 2-term congressman? And I don't blame you for this problem, because we've known about this issue for 20, 30, 40 years now. But are you willing to be a 1 or a 2-term congressman to make a tough vote that could possibly limit your political career?
Well, Jay, thank you for your question. Yes, I am more than willing to take a tough vote. I'm going to be honest with you. This one big beautiful bill that we're dealing with right now, that was not an easy vote when I voted for it out of the House. It was an important vote, but it did not go as far as I felt we needed to go in terms of spending cuts. But it was something that I felt like is very, very important. So I think every decision that I have to make as a congressman, quite frankly, you run the risk that it's going to be a career-shortening or a career-ending vote. At the end of the day, the voters have to make that decision on what they're going to do. I think, to your point, whether it's Social Security, Medicare, or whether it's just the national debt, at some point, this whole thing's going to blow up if we don't get it under control. And at some point, somebody's going to be holding that when it does. And I think every decision that I make as a congressman, every decision that future congressmen are going to make is going to have to weigh out that reality. I think when we look at the almost $37 trillion of national debt, everybody looks at the stock market and how it, goes up and down and kind of tries to judge the economy by that. But I've learned, even since I've been here, look at the bond market. And it's important for us to understand the difference between insolvency and bankruptcy. Because insolvency is when you have to borrow money to pay your bills. You're borrowing money every month just to pay your bills. Bankruptcy is when you can no longer borrow money. Nobody's going to give you money to be able to pay your bills, and then you go bankrupt. We've got to begin to take serious looks at our future as Americans. when it comes to getting our government spending under control. And but I appreciate your question, Jay, because I think it's a strong question. I think it's a real question. But I would only say yes. Every vote I take quite seriously, and I seek to do the right thing. Not necessarily is this going to get me elected. I don't. You can ask my staff. I don't tend to go by polls day to day based on what I'm going to do, because polls change with the wind. But I try to do that which is best and that which is right, and I'm going to keep trying to do that. That's been my commitment when I came here, and I hope that's going to be my commitment for the rest of the time that the voters choose to allow me to serve here.
Our next question is from Justin from Charlotte. Justin, you're on with Congressman Mark Harris.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Speaking of the big, beautiful bill, I know myself and many others are against the inclusion of selling off public land. Is this something that you would be able to advocate for the removal of if this bill continues to move forward?
Well, it really, to be honest with you, Justin, when you start talking about, federal land management, it is often criticized for its inefficiency and for its bureaucracy and the financial waste. But I certainly do understand that we've got to take a look at some of these things. So I've not really been diving into that issue quite as deeply as I probably should in order to answer your question more effectively. But I do understand the concerns, and I do understand the question that you're asking, and that we do need to think about what we're doing with our federal lands. No question.
Okay, now we'd like to hear from others on the call with a survey question. Our question for you is, should Congress pass the big, beautiful bill that extends the Trump tax cuts and cuts wasteful spending? Again, should Congress pass the big, beautiful bill that extends the Trump tax cuts and cuts wasteful spending? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, and press 3 for unsure. Now we have a question from Paul, who's from Monroe, and he's asked his question online. He thanks Rep. Harris for his wonderful hard work and dedication to North Carolina, but he's 18 years old and interested in politics and would love to hear if you have any advice for someone who wants to run for office.
Wow. Well, Paul, first of all, thank you for your kind words, and I appreciate what you've shared, and I really appreciate your interest in politics and public policy. And my best advice for you is make sure that you get engaged, make sure that you're learning all that you can, and you get engaged by simply being involved in a political campaign, learning what you can about the issues. I have to be honest, I was 8 years old when our country went through just a very difficult time. It was called Watergate. And as an 8-year-old little boy, I remember even to this day, and I would hear my parents talk about it, that I was mesmerized by what was happening and the hearings that went on. And the U.S. Senator Sam Ervin from North Carolina was one of the key questioners during the Watergate hearing. And I still remember as an 8-year-old boy being interested in that. And as I grew up, I continued to be interested in public policy. I took advantage of things like Boys State when I was in high school, and then was fortunate enough to be elected to go to Boys Nation that same summer. So when I went off to college, I majored in political science. I ended up as a pastor because God called me to preach, and I still preach to this day. But God opened the door for me to stay engaged in public policy because it's so important. And I think when you get around public leaders and you can learn all these issues, there's so many different avenues to serve. And maybe contacting our office about maybe being an intern. That would be great. You can serve as an intern in the district office. We have 2 district offices, one in Monroe there, and we have one down in Laurinburg. And if you wanted to be an intern in a district office, we also have internships available here in Washington where you come and serve as well. So that might be a possibility. But making sure you're registered to vote, getting involved in your local political party is always a great way to just get engaged. And hopefully our paths will cross soon. And when they do, you be sure to tell me that you were Paul that called to our teletown hall. And I'll look forward to seeing you and talking to you further. Thank you for your call, Paul.
Just another quick reminder, if you have a question, please press *3 on your phone's keypad, and a member of our team will help you get in line to ask Congressman Harris a question. Again, press *3. Now we're going to be going to Wayne from Rockingham. Wayne, you're on with Congressman Harris to ask your question.
Congressman, my wife has just recently retired, and she's began drawing her 401k. Where are you, and what do you can see in the future about maybe no taxes on the 401k?
Oh, that's a great question. First of all, I'm a big supporter of 401ks. I think it's critically important that all of us participate when we have the opportunity to do that, because again, as one listener pointed out a while ago, we do know that Social Security has its challenges, and we've got to make sure that that's not your only source, perhaps, that you're going to be counting on. So a 401k is a great thing, and you need to be a part of that. I don't know. There's really been no discussion on doing away with any tax that you would receive when you receive your 401k money back out. There are different ways of doing things that are pre-taxed going in, like a Roth IRA and those kind of things. But that's the reason the One Big Beautiful Bill is so important, because the overall economy is just so critical. I mean, extending the 2017 tax cuts so that you can keep more of your hard-earned money rather than see a tax increase. That's one reason I keep realizing that there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. We talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill and the tax cuts, but what folks really aren't understanding is we're really just voting in the One Big Beautiful Bill to maintain the tax brackets that were cut in 2017 when we first passed the bill. It is in the process of sunsetting at the end of this fiscal year. And the real challenge is going to be, if we don't pass the One Big Beautiful Bill and maintain those tax cuts, everybody's tax bracket is going to revert back to what they were prior to the 2017 tax cut. And that's going to mean across the board, from the poorest to the wealthiest, everybody will see. I think the number is an average of $1,700 per family increase in your taxes if we don't extend these tax cuts or make them permanent. So it's critical that we do that, and we're going to continue to work in that direction. But I appreciate your comment about the 401k. I do think they're an excellent instrument in saving for retirement. But again, don't know at this point that they will ever do away with taxes on your 401k when you are taking it back out in your retirement.
Our next question will be from Patrick from Albemarle. Patrick, you're on.
Yes, Congressman.
Hey,
Mark Twain said politicians in diapers need to be changed off for the same reason in 1886. That was my quote. My question to you, do you think our congressmen and senators need to have term limits, and do there need to be some restructuring of the FDA? FDA. I think it's corrupt. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, I do think this administration is, has put some new leadership in the FDA. It's all kind of brand new right now. And there can be some oversight given to that just to make sure that it's going to be handled in the most positive of ways. Your first question, that in the Mark Twain quote, which I think is a pretty awesome quote, is something that I do support term limits. In fact, I made a commitment that I would help co-sponsor a bill after I was elected and sworn in January, and I did, and am listed as a co-sponsor of a bill that does call for term limits. We have not been able to pass that bill out yet. Again, we've been wrapped up in reconciliation, but I do think that having term limits and that really causes people to not become so caught up in this rat race oftentimes, and the influence and the power that people sometimes seek out up here would be something that is very important. I think there's a lot of people that have a question about term limits because, frankly, the voters have an opportunity every 2 years when we have to run for Congress. They have an opportunity to throw the bums out or to reelect their congressman. There's also a lot of questions about what would be the best limit. Do you limit them to 3 terms? Do you limit them to 4 terms? Do you limit them to 5? Is 10 years the longest anybody should stay up here? Do you limit them for so many terms in the House and so many terms if they were to serve in the Senate? All of those are questions that tend to come up when you start talking about term limits. And some people feel like if you limit the terms of the elected official, that you're leaving it in the hands of all of the lobbyists and all of the staff that are the, quote, maybe the real professional politicians, because they're the ones that are influencing policy so much. But I do think it's something that is important. I think the American people need to have confidence in their leaders. And I think that term limits would give an opportunity perhaps for that confidence to begin to maybe be restored. I'm hoping that in the time that I've been here, in the first 6 months of my first term, that I'm bringing confidence to the constituents of the 8th District of North Carolina, that I'm going to try to work for them and be an effective voice here in D.C. But thank you for your question. It's something that I believe in, have run on, and certainly do support.
Our next question is going to come from Bridget, who's calling in from New Salem. Bridget, you're on with Congressman Harris.
Hi, Mr. Harris. I appreciate you taking my question.
Yes.
Thank you. I have heard that the Big Beautiful Bill has a moratorium of 10 years for big tech protection with the AI project, which would give them more power and states and individual rights to be rescinded. Is Congress going to debate this part of the bill or remove this from the bill?
Well, that's a great question, Bridget, and that's one of those things that the House passed it, but yes, it is concerning. And this is one of those things that has gotten over in the Senate, and we're literally getting different signals day by day of what this is going to look like when it comes back from the Senate. But there is a lot of hope that this could be something that the Senate makes some changes as it gets there. I'm going to be honest with you. There is so much information out here about artificial intelligence, and a whole lot of information that people are trying to discern and work their way through, and recognizing the dangers of it and the need for some regulation on it. And I think that's one of the things that we're all trying to kind of grope in the dark to get to some answers. It's come on us so quickly that we're not prepared for it. And my hope is that there will be conversation, there will be more discussion about it for us to get some action in place. But that's a genuine concern that you're raising, and I appreciate you bringing that out.
Now we would like to hear from others on the call with a survey question. Our question for you is, do you support President Trump's decision to send in the National Guard to stop the LA riots? Again, do you support President Trump's decision to send in the National Guard to stop the LA riots? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no, and press 3 for unsure. Our next question is going to be from Mike, who's calling in from Monroe. Mike, you're on with Congressman Harris.
Yes, Congressman. My question is, seeing as that money is fungible, Is there anything we can do to further restrict funding to states and cities that violate federal law?
That is a great question, Mike. And the answer is yes. I certainly am in favor of doing that. One of the things that I've been committed to from before I got up here was strengthening our border and protecting American lives. And when you've got sanctuary cities like LA, like Charlotte, and like other areas that are trying to create an environment that will ignore the safety of the American people and ignore what our law enforcement is trying to do through ICE and others, then we got a serious problem. And I do think that taking the approach of not funding or cutting off funding or limiting funding to those areas and those cities and states that choose to do that should certainly be one avenue that we might look at. The one big beautiful bill that we keep kind of referring to is going to give President Trump and give Tom Homan the resources they need. 10,000 new ICE officers are going to be a part of this bill once it is signed into law. 8,000 new Custom Border Patrol officers and agents. $14.4 billion to help in the removal transportation. I mean, we're having to, right now, the DOD, Department of Defense, is paying for these flights of taking people out of the country and deporting them. 100,000, up to 100,000 beds in these detention facilities that are set up to deport folks. In fact, I just learned again this morning, if you've been on the call, you heard me say I was in a briefing with the interim director of ICE earlier this morning, and I think it was, he said that they had 51,200 and some beds that they could actually have people in that they are preparing for deportation, and I think it's 49,700 and some of those are actually occupied at this time. So again, we've got a situation where the process of putting a person through the detention, having their hearings, a judge ordering that they can be deported, and then getting them out is taking time. It's taking anywhere up to 60 to 80 days. And that's the reason that we've got to get these new beds for detention facilities. But I love your idea of utilizing funding to somehow restrict or punish these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states that are doing what they're doing. So thank you for that question.
We will now be going to Brian, who's calling in from Charlotte. Brian, you're on.
Tom, I was really excited when Doge first came out, just because I know that if I ever get audited by the government, I got to know where every dime, where every dollar went. And it always amazes me, all these government NGOs and how they get money year after year without any paper trail, and then looking at the Green Beautiful deal where they spent all these trillions of dollars and nobody knows where it went. And so I was wondering, are they going to, I love having an auditor come in for these programs, and if they're not showing where the money went, being able to cut them. And I'm wondering if the Congress was going to follow up on that.
Brian, I love your question, and you're singing from the same sheet of music that I am. In fact, I'm co-sponsoring a bill to ensure that the transparency that DOGE has provided is going to outlive this temporary status. In fact, if enacted, the Make DOGE Permanent Act is going to give Congress the ability to analyze the Treasury payment system for all individual recipients of federal dollars. I told somebody that the first opportunity I had of meeting Elon Musk was when he actually came and met with us in the Republican conference one evening, and he described to us what DOGE was doing. And I told somebody, I said, I'm not a CPA, but I will say this. The churches that I've pastored go through audits regularly, in fact, annually. This was the first time, as I listened to him describe what DOGE was doing, that is the first time in nearly 100 years that all of the agencies of the federal government were having someone come in and say, we're going to look under the hood. We're going to see how money is being spent. We're going to see what these different programs are that you're doing. And that's exactly how we found the woke and weaponized foreign aid that USAID was spending. That's the way that we found the $889,000 for electoral reforms and voter education in Kenya. It's how we found the $567,000 for LGBTQI programs in Uganda. It's how we found the $500,000 for electric buses in Rwanda. And those are just a few samples that I'll just mention. But yes, DOGE has started something that I think the American people latched onto, and I don't think it's going to go away. I hope it doesn't go away. And we in Congress have got to make sure that we have an avenue. Right now, I know even we met with the Secretary of Labor. I serve on the Education and Workforce Committee. And we had the Secretary of Education one day that was there for a hearing, and the next day we had the Secretary of Labor. It was interesting because in both of their witness time and what they were sharing, their testimonies, they talked about the DOGE team that was in those departments. And I thought, wow, how cool that is that people are still being held accountable. And DOGE has worked with all of our agencies to find that waste, fraud, and abuse. And so, yes, we can do that. And you're exactly right. If any single one of us are going to be audited, they're going to want to know exactly how we're spending our money. And the same thing needs to go for these agencies in the federal government. So, yes, thank you for your question.
Our next question will be from Paul. Paul, you're on with Congressman Mark Harris.
Well, thank you, Congressman, for taking my question. Again, real simple question. I'm just curious what initiatives, either present or in the near future, do you hope to sponsor that will support jobs growth in our area, bring jobs to our region? Thank you.
Well, Paul, that's a great question. We've got to have jobs in our region. And one of the big things that I've been excited about is the president's call for a return of manufacturing to our country and things made in the USA. And that's, in fact, one of the things that was part of the One Big Beautiful Bill that the House passed out was that if you buy an American-made car, you're going to be able to deduct the interest on that purchase of that car. Again, helping support jobs and making a difference. In our district, I'm very excited that we've just learned here in recent weeks that in Richmond County, right there outside of Rockingham, in Richmond County, which is in the heart of the 8th District, Amazon announced a $10 billion investment that they are going to make in Richmond County. Listen, that cannot help but impact our entire area. They're putting a server farm. It's going to be 2,000 jobs during the construction process. Right after the announcement was made, the very next week, I had the privilege of having the vice president from Amazon meet with me here in my office in Washington, and we talked about those kind of things. And the 2,000 jobs, the construction will be going on really over a 7-year period as they're adding building after building. And then it will be 500 new permanent jobs that will be part of that as well. And I can only imagine what a benefit that's going to be not only to Richmond County, but to see that kind of influx of people coming in, how it will impact the surrounding counties in the 8th District as well. We're seeing that Apple announced it's going to spend more than $500 billion and roughly 20,000 workers in the U.S. over the next 4 years. And that was right after the president announced his 10% additional tariff on China. We've had Hyundai announcement of a $20 billion investment that's going to create more than 100,000 direct and indirect job opportunities. And then Red Bull, many of you know Red Bull, the energy drink. They're actually building a manufacturing plant right there in Cabarrus County, and that's going to create thousands of jobs. I also had the opportunity of talking to an entrepreneur in Anson County that is working now to actually take one of the mills there, and it'll be converted to be able to make denim jeans out of hemp. And they're in the process right now of getting the funding for that project and are well on their way, from what I understand. And that could lead to ultimately hundreds, if not thousands, of new jobs in the area. So these are things, when the economy is booming, I think that you're going to see jobs created. And that's the importance of us taking care of our small business owners, is the importance of making sure the one big beautiful bill is passed, because all of those tax implications that are part of that bill are going to be very, very serious things to the overall economy. Bidenflation wrecked our economy, and it's going to take a little bit of time for these policies that President Trump is bringing in to fix it. But I think we're going to be on our way here very soon. But thank you for that great call.
Our next question is from Steve. Steve, you're on with Congressman Harris.
Yes, good evening, Congressman. I am calling today regarding the Secure 2.0 Act, which allows for a limited rollover from a 529 plan to Roth IRAs under specific conditions. That will allow, parents that have kids that have graduated college and there's still funds remaining, that we could roll that in for the benefit of our child up to $35,000 over a 5-year period. My question is, and my concern is that the 529 plans have this provision in it. However, other education plans that have been used for college do not have the same provision. And unfortunately, I'm in a different account, or I have different accounts for my children that are not 529s. And I'm stuck now not being able to take some unused funds and roll them into a Roth IRA for my kids' benefits. Earlier, you had stated that, you felt that the Roth IRAs and anybody planning for their retirement is something that you support. Would you be able to introduce a bill or work with someone in Congress to introduce a bill to have that same provision in the Secure 2.0 Act applied to other education accounts?
Well, Steve, listen, you obviously have a great grasp of exactly how these accounts work, and I would be very, very interested in learning more from you. And yes, I would be quite interested in being a part of maybe sponsoring a bill or introducing a bill that could work to accomplish that, because I think you have hit on something that is a gap that we need to make sure that we're able to treat everybody as effectively and fairly as possible. I'm a huge pro-school choice advocate. You will find me in every turn saying that is, getting our children the best education, and parents being able to control the decisions that are made and how that money is spent and where it goes is something I'm all about. And so I would be very interested. If you don't mind, you can reach out to our office here in D.C., and my legislative team would be more than happy to talk with you about that and really getting the language. Drafting a bill is a process. I mean, it takes the idea, it starts with an idea, and then people begin to get the language, and then we recognize what would be the best committee that would handle it, and then you sit down with that committee chairman and float the idea with him, and then if he is into it or she is into it, then you can sit down with the committee staff and begin to put the language together with it, and then once you have a bill, then you can begin to have hearings on it, talk about it, and then you can begin to move it forward. So you've raised a very important issue here tonight that I think has some great credibility, that I would love to follow up on. So, Steve, please do reach out to our D.C. office. In fact, I'll give everybody this number if you're interested in calling our D.C. office. But Steve, in particular, with this education savings account idea, it's 202-225-1976. 202-225-1976. And you can ask to speak with our legislative director, and we would be glad to hear. And they're hearing this call right now, so they're going to be looking to hear from you, Steve.
We
Thank
will
you.
now be taking our last question for the evening. Our next question comes from Gerald. Gerald, you're on with the Congressman.
Yes, sir, Congressman Harris. It was good meeting you when you was in the area. I'm in Lumberton, North Carolina. My first question. Yes, sir. It's a two-part question. One, when do you think that the big, beautiful bill will actually reach the president's desk?
Well, I was told this morning that I may not be home for the weekend of July 4th, as I had planned to be, because we may still be here making sure that we get it passed to get on his desk by July 4th. Honestly, I can't tell you a for sure date when it will be on his desk. I can tell you that as late as this afternoon, he is absolutely determined. The Speaker of the House is absolutely determined that we're going to get it done. I've been told that this morning I was told that Senator Thune has already told the Senate they will not be leaving Washington this week or next week or anytime until they pass out a bill. And once it's passed out from them, it's going to come back to us. And depending on what kind of changes have been made, then we're going to have to pass that bill. And then once we pass it, it will go on the president's desk. The goal he has is to sign that bill on Independence Day on July 4th. And I sure hope and pray that he can do it. But I also want to make sure that the bill is good, that it's right, that it's done right. We don't want to rush anything, and not that anything's being rushed. Believe me, we passed the House's version out on Memorial Day, before Memorial Day break. The Senate has had it for the entire month of June, and it was my understanding that we were going to be able to come back this week and pass the final bill and have it to the president. But that has not happened. But we're going to get it done sooner or later. But we're shooting for the goal of July 4th. And what's your second part? Well, I'm going to guess that if you are down there in Lumberton, that maybe you would like an update on the Lumbee bill. And I'm very excited. That was one of the first bills I introduced, was the Lumbee Fairness Act, that they would be able to get the federal recognition that they have waited on for really decades. And there has been progress on that bill. We're simply waiting for the committee to release that bill. I've been in conversations multiple times with the chairman of that committee to release that bill. We're going to pass it in the House. I hope. It was passed at the end of the last session, last December. It was passed in the House, but then it was not taken up in the Senate. And but there's been some discussion over whether the Senate needs to go first this time, since they have not passed it yet. And then once the Senate passes it, then the chairman of this committee would put it on the floor and the House could pass it again. The president's ready to sign it. You know, we're already operating under an executive order that the president has asked us to get that bill done. And we're committed to it. I'm committed to it. And I'm asking about it frequently. And I'm just looking forward to one of these first Mondays getting back here to Washington and finding out that we're going to be voting that night on the Lumbee bill on suspension. That would be awesome. But we're going to keep working toward it. But Gerald, thank you for your questions. And hopefully that answers them for you this evening. I want to just take a moment as we wrap up to say thank you to all of you who have been on this call and taken the time to be on it. You've asked great questions tonight, and we've gotten to a great number of those questions. I want to say a word of thanksgiving tonight, not only to all of you that are on this call, but I just want to say a word of thanks to our staff. I've referenced them several times in this call, and that's because I'm convinced that I have probably the greatest legislative staff and district staff in the entire country. I know there's 435 of us in the U.S. House, but I would be hard-pressed to find a better group of people that are more gifted and more talented and more dedicated to seeing that the needs of our constituents are met, seeing that the principles that they know I cherish and I believe in are put forth, and they do a great, great job of helping keep me moving and helping get our message out. And a lot of times we may have some important things that need to be said, but were it not for this staff and their ability to get that message out, it just wouldn't happen. So I'm very thankful for them. Many of them have been here tonight helping facilitate this call, and I'm very grateful for them as well. But I'll say this in closing. Please continue to pray for the president. Continue to pray for our military. As I mentioned at the outset, many of them are on bases in and around the Middle East that are in dangerous communities, and we need to just continue to ask God's protection. Many of us were moved the other night when you heard President Trump really, in his own way, give thanks and praise to God for such an incredible encounter that our military executed the other night, and declaring his love for the Lord, declaring our thanks to God, and his love for our military and for all Americans. And I'll just close tonight by saying that may God bless you, may God bless the 8th District of North Carolina, may God bless America. And good night, and thank you.